Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think this is good. I'm Daryl Luster, as you've heard. I sit on the Executive Committee of Action Hepatitis Canada, AHC. You may have seen the bookmarks on your seats. Please take them with you and try to learn more about what we do. And if you'd like to join with us, that would be wonderful. I'm also the president of the Pacific Hepatitis C Network, PHC, and have been an advocate, educator, and peer counselor for many years. I also contracted the Hep C virus at some point in my past, and thanks to treatment, I have successfully cured the virus. I want to thank the symposium organizers for inviting me to speak about the role of the patient, that is, the person living with Hep C, in building a Canadian HCV action plan. And there we are. Whether we're researchers, healthcare providers, staffers working in community-based organizations, advocates, educators, or peer counselors, we're all working to better the lives of people living with hepatitis C. It can be easy to forget that at times, particularly if a passion to find the latest Hep C treatment or address the backlog of people needing treatment or counsel someone to find access to treatment fills our days. With more and more people coming forward who are living with Hep C, challenging our system capacities to address their needs, listening to the voices of people living with and at risk for contracting Hep C, it has never been more important. Those with lived experience have a unique perspective. We recall hearing the words, "You're Hep C positive." I'll never forget that. When we were first diagnosed, we felt afraid, angry, and confused. We had and asked many questions. Would we die? Was there treatment? Could we recover? People living with Hep C do have a voice, many voices. People living with or at risk for contracting Hep C come from all walks of life. We're not all the same, yet we have one thing in common, Hep C. Given the nature of the Hep C virus, often taking years before problems arise, it's easy for it to go unnoticed. Once diagnosed, there can be a lot of shame and stigma associated with it. I have felt that. The diverse nature of those affected, the slow speed of disease progression, along with the associated shame and stigma, result in few strong voices coming forward, not only to advocate for themselves, but to advocate for others. We've seen this before, not so long ago, in the communities affected by HIV and AIDS, communities that are also often affected by HCV, communities that we can share with and learn from. There is one major difference, though. HIV/AIDS was killing people quickly. There was a sense of urgency in communities affected by HIV/AIDS that has not been experienced in the same way by communities affected by HCV. And now we have new treatments for Hep C, treatments that can cure us of the Hep C virus, sorry. This is an almost unprecedented achievement, yet the treatments come with a cost, a very high cost, and we've heard a lot about that, all of us. This high cost has led to debates about who can and who will be treated. We hear that our health systems will collapse if we treat everyone that comes forward with a Hep C positive diagnosis. We're told we can't treat everyone, that some tough decisions will have to be made. Interesting that, as people were dying from AIDS, few questions that universal access to treatment was the only way to go to save lives, to save people's lives. Times have changed, we're told. We're now living in the age of austerity. There isn't enough money to go around. Governments are cutting back. All the more reason to raise our voices now. People are dying from the Hep C virus. We have a cure. All people need to be treated. The researchers need to raise their voices. The healthcare providers need to raise their voices. Community organizers need to raise their voices. People living with and at risk for contracting Hep C need to raise their voices. And we will all have to work together to raise awareness about Hep C, to increase access to testing, to increase access to treatment that saves lives. Like the Hep C community as a whole, Action Hepatitis Canada, AHC, a national coalition of 35 organizations and counting responding to hepatitis B and C, has not been as loud as it should have been. However, in the last year or so, AHC has emerged as the organization that is best placed to advocate on behalf of those living with and at risk for Hep C. So what or who is Action Hepatitis Canada? There's a picture. Action Hepatitis Canada is a national coalition of organizations responding to hepatitis B and C. Our work engages government, policymakers, and civil society across Canada to promote hepatitis B and C prevention, improve access to care and treatment, increase knowledge and innovation, create public health awareness, build health professional capacity, and support community-based groups and initiatives. Currently, there are 35 organizational members, as I mentioned, of AHC from across the country. Patricia Bacon, the executive director of Blood Ties, Four Directions Center in Whitehorse, Yukon, is the current chair of AHC. The executive committee meets regularly by phone, usually at least once a month. The steering committee also meets regularly in person and by phone. Communications are ongoing between the AHC steering and executive committees and the general membership via the AHC Gmail account. AHC also has websites in French and English. All AHC member organizations have one vote during elections. Katie is currently the secretariat for AHC. AHC receives financial support from the Canadian Hemophilia Society, AbbVie, Gilead, Janssen, Merck, and RX&D. Many AHC members also provide in-kind support, and all members involved with AHC activities do so voluntarily. The only paid staff are those who work with AHC's secretariat and a part-time administrative coordinator who was hired just recently. And here's a little background info. In the early 2000s, several Canadian organizations involved in addressing viral hepatitis came together to form the first Hepatitis Network. The first Hepatitis Network focused on a call to governments for the development of hepatitis strategies and introduced the document Responding to the Epidemic, Recommendations for a Canadian Hepatitis C Strategy. Some of you may remember that. In 2010, organizations came together once again to form the Canadian Coalition of Organizations Responding to Hepatitis B and C, rather long name, which in 2013 became Action Hepatitis Canada. What are we working on? AHC has called on the federal, provincial, and territorial governments to develop strategies to address viral hepatitis. In 2011, following extensive research and communications with key health policy and government contacts from across the country, and following the 6 asks introduced by the World Hepatitis Alliance and adapted by AHC to suit the Canadian context, AHC produced, distributed, and promoted the first report card, capturing the achievements and gaps in research, prevention, testing, treatment, care, and support programs and services for people living with and at risk for viral hepatitis. This report card was updated in 2012. Throughout 2013 and much of 2014, while continuing to call on governments to develop hepatitis strategies, and within a hopeful yet ever-changing climate of treatment advances, AHC has worked on strengthening its own capacity to act on behalf of those impacted by viral hepatitis. AHC has engaged in media communications on issues such as the recent World Health Organization Hepatitis Resolution, encouraging countries around the world to develop viral hepatitis strategies and responding to concerns related to patient treatment access in light of the extremely high cost of new hepatitis C drugs. The steering committee has also worked with the AHC Secretariat to develop a series of funding asks and approaches, resulting in dedicated funds flowing to AHC for the first time. Along with funds from the Canadian Hemophilia Society, AHC hired a researcher-writer to update the AHC report card. The updated information gathered is contained in a new, user-friendly, searchable database that will soon be available for public viewing on AHC's website. The first viral hepatitis in Canada progress report will be launched in March using the data collected. Community training and capacity building initiatives will take place to strengthen AHC's capacity to advocate on behalf of those living with and affected by viral hepatitis. Action Hepatitis Canada has 9 representatives from all across the country attending this 4th annual Canadian Symposium on HCV. I would ask that our members in attendance please stand. Great, thank you. They represent not only AHC, but the voices of thousands who turn to them every day for guidance, care, and support. There are also many researchers, healthcare providers, and allied professionals here today, representing the NCRTP Hep C National HCV Task Group, CASTLE, CON, CLF, CATIE, and many others. And amongst all of us, there are several people with direct lived experience of hepatitis C. In recent months, a number of these organizations have held summits, forums, symposiums, deliberative dialogues. There's a lot of evidence out there to support the work we're doing. Now is the time for all of us, including people living with, affected by, or at risk of contracting hepatitis C, to come together to work collaboratively to seriously move forward on developing a national action plan to address hepatitis C in Canada. Thank you.
Yes. Any questions for Daryl?
It was a really nice talk, and it's nice to see that you've brought all these organizations together and bringing so many different patient voices together. I guess my question is do you have, again, it might be tough. My questions are all tough, I guess, today.
Not too tough, please.
But I'm wondering if you have, there's a lot of practitioners, a lot of researchers in the room, a lot of community people as well, but do you have 1 or 2 practical suggestions of ways that researchers and practitioners in the room can meaningfully engage with you to help move through this journey and to take that next step?
Well, I think meetings like this are pretty important because we're sharing what we do. And I think beyond that, we need to have further meetings and really work on what it is. I mean, I don't have a pat answer for that question, so I think what it means is we have to work more closely together. That I was kind of alluding to that, I suppose.
So perhaps the National Canadian Network application that's being sort of chaired by Nagla and Shukri and Julie Bruneau, and bringing community groups into this process, that might found sort of the foundation for generating some of that dialogue, and as a first step in moving that forward. So I think it's great that we have the CIHR here, that they've started that initiative, and we've got the players in the room, so I think we can take that next step, if you agree.
I agree, absolutely. Any steps we can take.
I just wanted to mention the film called Deal With It. It's a really good opportunity to connect with communities all over to discuss hepatitis C. There's 4 people in the room right now that are right in the film, so we should acknowledge them too. So it's a really good film. People are mesmerized by it. It's really good. Thank you.
Daryl, my name is Frank Bialystock, and I thank you very much for this presentation. I'm the lay member for the NCHRTP committee. So I guess the face for the committee of someone who's lived with hepatitis C. And I just want to say that I had not heard of this organization. Of course, I've been coming every year to our meetings, so this is a tremendous step, and I thank your group, and I thank you for being the human face, those of you who stood up, for the people in this room who do all of the work, who create the magic that has allowed us to make these tremendous strides in progress, and also for CAHR to and I don't know if there are representatives from any of our other sponsors here, for being here with us, and all the best to you, and I'd like to get involved as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.